most bullshit. The most bullshit. So we were just like, what's the truth? And let's talk.
It was one of those ironies of fate that Dakota Johnson, who had grown up in Hollywood surrounded by the dazzling distractions of privilege and spotlight, would come to realize one of the strangest and most quietly profound chapters of her life not in Los Angeles or New York, but in the damp chill of Edinburgh, in a modest hillside apartment overlooking the Firth of Forth, where an independent film project, deliberately unannounced, was being shot, its secrecy echoing the secrecy that would soon envelop her days. For Dakota, who thought she would be alone there, received a call at 1 o'clock in the morning from her assistant informing her that Sam Heughan, the Scottish actor known worldwide as the romantic warrior of Outlander, would be sharing her space for 3 weeks due to a logistical shortage of accommodation. And in that instant she frowned, not out of disdain but out of incredulity, for the notion of living with Sam seemed both surreal and oddly intrusive, like being told that she was to share her breathing space with a legend crafted half of fiction and half of flesh. And yet she agreed, reluctantly, already imagining herself shrinking into the background of her own temporary home the way she always tried to fade from the glare of rooms too full of voices, unlike Sam, who was known to enter a space and make it tremble simply by existing in it, tall, elegant, piercing-eyed, a man whose mere presence seemed to shift the gravitational balance. And so when he arrived with 3 suitcases, a canvas bag spilling with books, and an old guitar that seemed to carry the memory of countless silent nights, neither spoke much, and the air between them was thick not with hostility but with the strangeness of 2 melodies layered in different keys, overlapping but not harmonizing, just coexisting. And yet in the days that followed, the oddest rituals began to take shape. For every morning Dakota would wake to the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen, always ready and waiting by the window. And when she finally asked him if he really drank the bitter concoction that almost made her choke on first sip, he smiled faintly and confessed he never drank coffee at all, but enjoyed watching others endure its bitterness, a revelation that unsettled her more than it should have, because it suggested a man who relished not the taste of life's comforts but the theater of human response, as though ritual meant more than consumption. And she began to keep quiet mental notes, small facts that revealed the man behind the mask. Sam Heughan did not drink coffee, yet made it daily for others as though to preserve some ancient rite. And then there was the piano incident, which happened one Thursday night when Dakota, restless at 2 in the morning, heard a strange cascade of awkward chords and stumbling progressions from the living room, notes that were not confident but searching, halting like the voice of someone learning a new language. And when she crept out, she found Sam sitting under the yellow glow of a floor lamp, his broad back turned to her, fingers moving on an electronic keyboard. And when she startled him with her whisper, he denied it, saying the sounds came from an app that helped him sleep, like the ocean waves or rain sounds that others might use. But the next night, when she stayed up deliberately to test the truth, she caught him again, fingers tracing the keys with a hesitance that betrayed both talent and shame. And when she accused him of lying, he shrugged and admitted only that he did not wish anyone to know how clumsy he was. And in that shrug Dakota glimpsed a vulnerability rarely permitted to those whose lives were consumed by public image, a reminder that the heroic figures the world adored were often fragile apprentices in the private moments that mattered most. And the strangeness did not end there. For on a rainy morning when Dakota was rearranging the modest bookshelf in the hallway, she discovered its absurd inventory. Manuals on yoga for the inflexible, survival guides for being lost in the woods, recipe collections for those who hated cooking, books seemingly chosen without logic until Sam, chopping vegetables nearby, casually explained that he picked them by their covers, insisting that a beautiful cover made a room feel less lonely, a statement that first struck her as childish until she realized it was profound. For in a life of constant transience, where hotel rooms and rented flats became the backdrop of one's existence, perhaps beauty, even superficial beauty, was a kind of armor against the void. And yet tucked among the absurdities was a leather notebook, cracked with age, without title or author. And when she opened it, she found delicate handwriting, pages filled with a story of a woman named Ira, a cold sea, and a man haunted by a ghost. And when she confronted Sam about it, he fell into speechless silence before confessing that it was his, that he wrote but never showed anyone. And in that moment Dakota felt the air shift, for she realized she was sharing her space not with a celebrity but with a hidden writer, a man who poured truths into pages never meant for eyes, and that discovery unsettled her in a way the coffee and piano never had, because words were windows to the soul, and his windows were shadowed with ghosts she could not yet name. And so as days turned into weeks, she kept watching, noticing the mirror in the living room that at first seemed ordinary but on the 12th day reflected something strange. She could not explain it, but it felt as though the mirror had begun to hold more than their images, as though it trapped fragments of silence, glances, unspoken truths, and when she asked Sam about it, he dismissed her unease with a wry smile, but she could not shake the sense that his presence filled the apartment with a texture beyond the visible, an invisible tension that was not threatening but transformative, and the longer they coexisted, the more she realized that she was learning things about him that were never meant to be part of the public narrative. That he valued silence more than conversation, that he distrusted glamour even as he wore it like a cloak, that he wrote stories of loneliness and ghosts while the world demanded he play a romantic hero, that he brewed coffee he would never drink, and played piano he pretended not to know, and all of these fragments built into a portrait more shocking than scandal, because it was human, vulnerable, contradictory, filled with shadows and small acts of resistance against the persona projected on him. And Dakota began to realize that she too was changed, that living with Sam was not like sharing space with a stranger but like sharing silence with a mirror that reflected not her image but her hidden solitude. And when she later revealed this strange truth, she knew it was not the kind of revelation the tabloids craved but something far rarer, that the man known to millions was, in the quiet spaces, a keeper of rituals, secrets, and fragile, unpolished music, and that 3 weeks in a modest Edinburgh apartment had given her more insight into the nature of intimacy and
It's my bangs up in this like tiny little garlic knot right on my forehead. We're not doing that today because it looks insane.
in the grey chill of Edinburgh, where the studio had placed Dakota Johnson in a modest hillside flat overlooking the Firth of Forth while shooting an independent project shrouded in secrecy. Life unfolded in ways she had never expected, because what began as a simple arrangement to share space with Sam Heughan soon unraveled into a series of encounters that blurred the line between ordinary cohabitation and something deeply uncanny, like two souls brushing past each other in a place neither fully claimed nor abandoned. At first it was simply about coffee, that bitter brew Sam never drank himself yet brewed every morning for Dakota, as though the act of watching her endure it gave him private amusement or perhaps some ritual satisfaction. And while she teased him for it, the ritual bound them together in silence at the start of each day, a silence that was soon broken by strange discoveries. Faint piano notes echoing in the night when Sam swore he did not play, a shelf filled with books chosen not for words but for the beauty of their covers to keep loneliness at bay, and a hidden leather notebook holding stories about a woman named Ira, a cold sea, and a ghostly past that Sam tried to dismiss as nothing, though his eyes betrayed otherwise. One morning the mirror caught the sunlight and revealed in faint felt tips script the phrase, "The truth has blue eyes," which Sam admitted was something his late mother had told him, a haunting reminder that honesty, like blue eyes, was clear and piercing, and though he spoke lightly of it, Dakota recognized that it cut deeper than he let on. And in that chipped china vase he kept on the shelf, once used to feed his childhood dog named Sputnik, she saw further proof of how he carried grief in small, ordinary objects, grief wrapped in politeness, humor, and the kind of composure that made him look untouchable to the world yet fragile and private. Their days slipped quickly into a rhythm marked by these revelations, until one morning Dakota found a poem left on the kitchen table, and signed, haunting in its brevity. Lines about the moon, breath, and the void, which Sam denied writing though his eyes softened as though he recognized something in it. And though Dakota pressed no further, she kept it safe in his hidden notebook, sensing it was another fragment of him he had not intended to share. When the final night came, he led her to the beach under a cold silver moon and pulled from his bag 3 offerings, a mug of brutal coffee, the chipped pot, and the poem, calling them pieces of himself he had never given away, not as a burden but as gifts for her to understand him by, though she did not take them physically, choosing instead to press her hand over his in a gesture of silent acknowledgement. And in that moment words became unnecessary, for she knew that what they had lived together was not love in the simple, romantic sense, nor friendship in its usual softness, but a crossing of 2 lives where the mundane became symbolic in every object. The coffee, The vase, the poem, the mirror, was transformed into a keyhole through which Dakota glimpsed the secret interior of a man the world thought it knew but did not, and perhaps never truly would, except for these brief, uncanny weeks when honesty, grief, and silence coexisted in a small Edinburgh flat and left their mark like the faint writing on glass that appears only when the light slants just right, half visible, half vanishing, yet impossible to forget. In the gray chill of Edinburgh, Dakota Johnson never imagined that sharing a modest hillside flat with Sam Heughan would unfold into something far stranger and far more intimate than she could have foreseen. Each morning began with the same ritual, coffee brewed by Sam, though he never drank it himself, watching instead as Dakota endured its bitterness with a smile. Nights were stranger still, with soft piano notes drifting through the rooms, even though Sam swore he didn't play, and shelves lined with books chosen not for their words but their covers, keeping loneliness at bay. In the mirror, faint writing appeared one morning. "The truth has blue eyes," a phrase Sam revealed his late mother had whispered to him, a reminder that honesty, like blue eyes, was piercing and impossible to hide from. And in a chipped vase, once used to feed his childhood dog Sputnik, Dakota found the quiet grief of a man who carried loss in silence. The final night, beneath the silver moon on a windswept beach, Sam placed before her 3 tokens: the bitter coffee, the vase, and a folded poem, parts of himself he had never shared with anyone. Dakota did not take them, but simply pressed her hand over